Hello and welcome to our next Irish history video and the last video in our sub-series on Northern Irish history. And what we're finishing off on is a video on the Troubles. And the reason we put this as a separate video is to do this justice. So we're going to examine the Troubles, all the key events, the breakdown, what happened, and let's take a deep dive into this, shall we? Now, the Troubles began in 1969. Rioting broke out in the Catholic Bogside area of Derry. So, this was caused by a march by the Apprentice Boys in Derry. Now, the Apprentice Boys are a society that commemorates the siege of Derry in 1689, which the Protestants faced a Catholic or a Jacobite army. So the Catholics blocked off the Bogside area using the barricades. The Battle of the Bogside took place between the police and the Catholics. Also then, in the same time, in Belfast, Catholic areas were attacked by Protestant mobs held by the police. Many Catholics were burnt out of their houses, and many went to the south and fled to the Republic. Northern Ireland was on the brink of a civil war, and as a result, the British Army was sent in to protect Catholic areas from Protestant attacks. Jack Lynch said the same thing on TV in 1969 that we talked about in other videos about his "we can no longer stand idly by" speech. And again, many Irish Southern Republicans took this as an indication that the government would get involved, when in fact it wasn't, and nor could the Southern government get involved because they would be defeated quite easily by the British and make problems. As well as that, the mention of Troubles to describe basically a civil war between Catholics and Protestants in Northern Ireland is another form of understatement in Irish history, the same way World War II was described as the emergency. So you now have a split in the IRA in the north as well, and you have the emergence of the Provisional IRA, or better known as the Provos. The IRA had not defended Catholic areas in Belfast, and this had resulted in the split. So you have the official IRA then, which was socialist and savoured peaceful methods, and then you had the Provisional IRA that wanted a united Ireland and wanted to achieve this using violence. The Provisionals, or the Provos, planted bombs and shot at the British Army and the RUC. British soldiers were heavy-handed when searching Catholic homes for arms. As a result, Catholics turned against the British Army. Two Protestant paramilitary groups, the Ulster Volunteer Force, the UVF, and the Ulster Defence Association, the UDA, began to attack Catholics, and this caused the death toll to rise dramatically. Now, what also happened was internment. So in 1971, the Prime Minister of Northern Ireland, Brian Faulkner, introduced internment in an effort to stop the violence. Over 300 people were imprisoned without trial, and all of them were nationalists. However, violence increased, as did support for the IRA. All you were doing was radicalising those who were innocent. Northern Ireland would eventually have to get direct rule from Westminster. So, this is exaggerated and I suppose exasperated by Bloody Sunday in 1972. A march took place to protest against the internment in Derry on Sunday the 30th of January. 13 unarmed Catholics were shot dead by the British Army. This became known as Bloody Sunday. As a result, violence increased, and in response, the British government imposed direct rule from Westminster. The Stormont Parliament was suspended, and William Whitelaw became the first Secretary of State for Northern Ireland. And now we look at Stormont here and the protests against it during the Sunningdale Agreement of 1973, which we also mentioned in one of our previous Republic of Ireland videos. So, who was involved in Sunningdale? You had Brian Faulkner, who was the Unionist leader, and you had Jerry Fitt, who was the SDLP, the Nationalist Party founder and leader. So, in 1973, the British hoped direct rule would not last very long. They began talks with the Unionist Party, the SDLP, and the Irish government. So in December 1973, an agreement was reached. This was called the Sunningdale Agreement. Its terms were it was to set up a power-sharing government, something that wouldn't happen, as we mentioned in our earlier videos, until 2007. This meant that there was a coalition government between the Unionists and the SDLP. Brian Faulkner, the Unionist leader, was Prime Minister, and Jerry Fitt of the SDLP was the Deputy Prime Minister. It was also setting up a Council of Ireland consisting of politicians from both sides in the border who would consult on Northern Irish policies. But it failed though. Most unionists opposed sharing power with nationalists. In 1974, Protestant workers staged a general strike organised by the Ulster Workers' Council, and that paralysed the Northern Irish economy. This resulted in the fall of the power sharing government, and the violence would continue throughout the rest of the 1970s. That's all on that we have on the Troubles. More about the H blocks and the Irish IRA ceasefire and the Anglo-Irish Agreement in 1985, I'd recommend that we go back and look at the video on Northern Ireland from 1945 to 2000. Thanks for watching and listening. We'll talk to you again real soon. Goodbye.